So it's actually a proven fact that dogs especially can actually help in boosting the immunity of your children. If you come into a home and you're really frustrated, annoyed and angry, and you see your dog wagging your tail at you and coming running to, your first instinct is to forget what happened and just pet the dog. So there is an immediate mood shift. So when this happens over and about every day, it actually helps to regulate your blood pressure, your hormones, the way you feel good about yourself. So it is actually a proven fact.
Greetings from G. Krishnan and welcome back to my YouTube channel G. Krish TV. We have seen many individuals and families taking interest in adopting animals, birds. Some even have fish. Pets always bring happiness to family members and individuals. In this context, today I am an expert, a veterinary doctor who has done a post-graduation in veterinary science from the Madras Veterinary College, Chennai. I welcome on behalf of G. Krish TV, Dr. Ginah. Welcome Dr. Ginah. To start my first question, see in human beings we have different stages of life. The day born as infant, then few years later as a child, then you are an adult, then a middle age and senior citizen, so on. How does it happen in case of animals, especially dogs?
So in the case of dog, we have these various stages. So first is the puppyhood. This stage can last somewhere between 3 months to 6 months, sometimes even to 18 months. Then we have something called the adolescent period. That is somewhere between 18 months to almost 20-25 months, like that. And then an adult dog. We call an adult dog when the dog is almost 1.5 to 2 years old. So after that, we have a period called as the senior dog, like how in human beings we have the senior citizen thing. So that is a dog anywhere more than 6 to 8 years. So just like in human beings, we have the classification, but this is not a fixed classification. Of course, this can vary from dog to dog, depending upon the health of the dog, the way the animal is being taken care, food intake. For example, if it's a home dog, the aging may be quite less when compared to a street dog, which can actually age way faster than the set rules.
How many breeds of dogs are there? Can you quantify? Is it possible to quantify?
Sir, actually that is a very difficult question because we have a lot of breeds, but in different countries we have different breeds, indigenous and then native breeds and all. But the problem is there are so many internationally recognized kennel clubs and a lot of them don't acknowledge all the breeds. So there is an organization called as the World Canine Organization that is an internationally recognized largest dog registry. So what they have done is they have given 10 groups. Each group they have classified dogs on the basis of their breed, size and also the purpose, whether it's used for companionship, whether it's a toy animal, whether it is used for hunting, whether it's guarding animals. So under that 10 category, together we have some around 339 breeds, but I'm pretty sure it is only an underestimation. So some of their classifications are like this. One is terrier, then we have hunting varieties, then we have the poodles, then we have toy breed, those for companionship, some call as a cattle dogs, then we have something called for the hunting purpose dogs. So there are 10 classifications. So in that we fit around 339 exact known breeds.
Do they vary from tropical climate and very cold climate, some of the coldest countries?
Yes, yeah. The entire nature of the dog, especially when compared with the body and the skin and the fur, varies from the cold climate to the hotter climate. For example, in India we have most of the hound breeds. For example, Chipiparai, Rajapalayam, Kanni, Kombai, all of them are basically thin, tall and less haired dogs. It's because our climate is such. But if you go to other countries, then like the colder areas, you will have dogs which have double coat or even a triple coat. This is done mainly to keep them warm and to keep them more comfortable. So that's how it is.
Now, the basic question, how do you take care of the dog from the day one?
Day one, actually we should not have that situation of having to take care of a newborn from day one, sir, because no matter who it is, we should never try to take the puppy from the mother at a very early stage. So there is a weaning period of around 45 to 60 days. But imagine that you have found a puppy abandoned on the road, you found a kitten abandoned on the road. In that case, yes, you will have to kind of take care of it. It is a very rigorous process. It can only be done by people who are quite having the time, because newborns have to be fed every 2 hours and their stomachs are like really small. We can't push feed down that, and you have to make sure they have this eating reflex, drinking reflex. For example, if they have the mother, they will also lick their genitals so that they can, pee and defecate. But you will have to do all that manually. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of reading up to kind of maintain, and also the kind of milk which is being given. We can't generally be using the cow milk or some. There are actually bitch milk replaces specially formulated. We also have to get small feeding bottles for them, and they are small animals, so they can easily become cold, and they'll get hypothermia and they can be dead. Taking care of a newborn from day one and making sure it survives is actually a task. And I'm not really sure if you can do it unless in a shelter situation where you have people only doing that. If you have a 9 to 5 working job, it is nearing impossible to take care of a newborn baby. Yeah.
Do they have any vaccination schedule like how we take care of the infants or children
Similar
of
to human beings, dogs and cats, even cattle, all the animals have vaccinations. Certain vaccines are done to prevent those dogs from getting disease from the other dogs or cats, and some are done so that they don't give us diseases. So for example, in a normal schedule, a dog's vaccination starts around 45 days. First dose is given called DHPPIL. It's against 7 diseases like distemper, hepatitis, parainfluenza and all. And that dose has to be repeated thrice. So you give a primary vaccine and then you give 2 booster vaccines. So once that is over, then we have a vaccine called anti-rabies vaccine. So well aware about rabies. So just to prevent the dog from getting rabies from other dog bites, we give them rabies. So this is done initially. So we have 3+1 vaccine. But once a dog is an adult, that is once 1 year has crossed, then annually you have to only give them 1 vaccine. Combined.
How expensive all these vaccinations?
So these vaccines have different rates. So it depends upon where you're choosing your pet to be vaccinated. For example, in a shelter like ours or any other shelter or a government setup, you may have the rate of a vaccine anywhere between 300 and 500 for the DHPPIL. But if you go to a private setup, you may have to pay slightly more depending upon their facility and their infrastructure. And the anti-rabies vaccine is somewhere between 100 and 200. So a minimum 500 should be in your mind every time you visit a vet for a vaccine purpose.
In case of infant or child in human beings, and the mother takes care of the child, how that happens in case of dogs?
So motherly instincts are the same, whether it is for a human being or for a cattle or for a dog or for a cat. So how protective a human mother can be of her child, the same way a dog will be of her children. So if you see a dog which is just whelped, and if you are a stranger and not in contact with the dog, if you try to pick up a puppy, you can expect to be bitten. For sure she will attack you. But if somebody like me who has already known the dog, she may even bring the puppy to me and give me. So that instinct is very common and very strong actually. We have a lot of people who buy puppies and kittens from breeders at 25-30 days. It's not advisable, sir, because these puppies and kittens have to drink their mother's milk so that they gain immunity, they gain a lot of other things and the motherly bonding. They also have to be with their siblings because that social interaction they get at that age is very essential for their character building later in life. So it is essential that they spend their initial time with their mother, and at weaning period, once they've finished drinking milk, they can start feeding on themselves. Then is when you have to separate them from the mothers.
So you mean to say maybe after 45 days or after
45 at the minimum.
At the minimum.
At the minimum.
Some individuals buy puppies from the masters, owners. How to know the healthy condition of the puppies which they buy?
So basically when you're deciding to buy a pup from a breeder, first thing is you have to look at the parents. So first you take a look at the mother and the father. So some people will say we only have the mother, we don't have the father, we sent it somewhere else for mating. So in that case, try to gather some information and look at the parents, because if you see the parents, you can be quite sure what this animal is going to look like when it grows up. So once you have done that part, then there will be a gang of puppies. So look at them and pick up those puppies which are usually very active. They come running to you, and those which don't have any deformities. Like certain pups may have a small limp, one leg may be shorter than the other leg. Some will have a bent tail. There can be small injuries caused during, at the time of birth. Some may even have some eye issues. So you just look at them, those which look very bright, healthy, running around, fighting with each other. Try to pick up those animals. That is the main thing, yeah.
Dr. Ginah, what are the suggestions you'll give to the owners or the masters to take care of their pets?
So basically it's very easy to take care of a pet if you're up to date with your vaccination and their deworming schedules. So they are the most important thing. Once it's a pup, you have to follow a regular vaccination schedule and a deworming schedule and continue that in their adult life. So if you've been doing those 2 steps very clearly, there 50% of the diseases are actually cured. The other 50% occurs only when the animal is an adult or moving into the adolescence and seniorhood, like arthritis, joint pain, certain cancers and tumors. They are not something you want to expect in the first 5 years of the life. Also, a frequent problem is skin issues. So one advice is, if you find something off with the skin, between the digits, at the base of the tail, in the abdomen, immediately take it to a vet. Like do not postpone thinking that I will take it next Sunday or I don't have the time, because with every losing week or month, what we can do for the animal is only this much. Like, it brings down our time frame, and these kind of diseases require a long time to heal. So you can't expect magic overnight. So the basic concern is, if the dog has not been eating for 2 days, take it to the vet the third day. Don't come and be like 1 month the dog hasn't been eating. So that's the thing. And make sure that the skin is maintained clean without any ticks, fleas, hair fall, patchy, falls like that. So other than that, there are no particular thing. And for the diet also, be well aware what the dog can eat and what dog should not eat. So you don't give it anything which is not in the diet. That is one main, because people are not aware that certain vegetables should not be given, certain fruits should not be given, and they can be the main reason causing the health condition for the animal. So read up, be well aware what can be given, what can't be given. Also make sure that if you have small kids at home, make sure that they stay away from the animal and don't provoke it to kind of bite the child or induce some aggressive behavior in the animal. So that should be fine. So otherwise there are no major issues.
Do dogs transmit diseases, vice versa? Any fever for a human being, is it transmitted to the dog?
Regarding fever, I think now corona is the most common question. People ask us if dogs can transmit corona to human beings. This coronavirus has been in the canine family for the longest time. This is not a new virus for us veterinarians, but what we have to try and understand is this particular strain which affects the dog is not the SARS which actually caused the 2019 pandemic. They have no connection. So now we have been dealing with this for 2 years now, and there is no evidence of a dog transmitting corona to the animal, to a human being. So we don't have to worry about that. So though they may have the same names, they are two different strains, and they have different hosts. Host as in one is a human being and one is a dog. So we don't have to have the fear that if I get corona, will my dog get it? If my dog will get, can it give me? That is not something it is not basically a zoonotic concern.
Okay, now because of the pandemic, is there any special vaccination done for the dogs also?
No sir, because of the pandemic we are not following any special vaccines, because the pandemic has nothing to do with what the dogs have.
Okay.
So what we have been following is only for the dog. So there is no particular precaution you have to take for your dog to prevent it from getting corona, because it will not get the corona. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Now tell me, masters or owners, they have some urgency to go out of the home. Can these dogs be left alone in the house? And the second question is, if the children, maybe at the age up to the age of 12, can they be left along with the dog, pet dog?
Okay sir. So coming to your first question, how long a dog or a cat can be left alone in a house? So literature usually says that 1 hour for every month the dog has been alive, but actually there are some differences. For example, you cannot leave a puppy, 45 days old puppy, 3 hours or even 2 hours straight alone, because what happens is they are small animals. They have to be fed very regularly, like every 1 hour, 2 hour, and they also have to go to the loo and stuff like that. So if you choose to leave an animal for a prolonged time, they can actually get depressed and they feel left out and no one to interact with. So it is best at the maximum for adult dogs 6 hours. 6 hours is the frame. At least you can have some maid or somebody in the house nearby to come and check on them, see if they require food or water, if they want to go for a walk to relieve themselves. So 6 to 8 is the maximum. But for puppies, they should never be left alone. Yeah, and for the children part, that actually depends upon children to children. So because certain kids are actually grown at home and they have been seeing animals from a very young age. So they have a way with the animals. They have grown with them. So even if you choose to leave a dog and a 12-year-old who has grown with a dog, even for a prolonged time, nothing is going to happen. But there are children who are new to dogs. They don't know how to handle them, where you should not touch, where you should not pull, how you should not provoke. So if such kids are left with them, it can quite be a disaster. So that depends from child to child and also the animal to animal. There are some breeds which are quite friendly with human children and some which are not. So that is, we can't give a fixed answer to that question. Yeah, it differs.
Now tell me, masters or owners, for various reasons, they leave these dogs to the, I think now we have the facility of the kennels.
Yeah, kennel facility.
When they leave for more than 6 days or 1 month, will it affect the mental health of the dog?
So this is quite a strange concept which people fail to understand, but there is a mental health aspect to a dog's or a cat's mind actually, because these animals are, for example in Chennai, if you're having a dog, usually you will have it within your house, inside your house with you. So that animal has been living with you and your family for all these days. So it does not know anybody else. It does not have friends outside. It does not have a family outside. So one fine day, if you choose to leave the animal in a kennel or in a shelter and go on a vacation, what you have to understand is these facilities usually provide a small cage, the dog in there, food, water, and somebody may come to just walk the animal once. So they will not get the affection, love, what we give at home. So one day may be fine, two may be fine, even a week may be fine, but they tend to take a toll on their mind. They become depressed. So a lot of owners come back and tell us that we left it for a week. When we took the animal back home, she was not the same. She didn't talk to us. She was not friendly with us. She was just going by herself. That is just their way of showing that they didn't have a good time back in the shelter, like they didn't have a good time in the kennel they were left with. So a lot of people say that that's not true, but it is actually true. Even cats experience a lot of withdrawal symptoms. They want to be where they are. Suddenly, if you pick them up and put them in a strange place, they cannot be happy.
And what about the food habits? Human beings, we have that vegetarian, non-vegetarian.
So actually, dogs are carnivorous animals. So carnivorous means they are developed and designed by God to eat flesh and meat. So unlike human beings, dogs don't hunt or eat non-veg for pleasure or for fun. They have it for survival. So their gut is programmed in a way to digest such kind of food. Their teeth is aligned in a way they can tear and shred and eat. So I don't believe in the concept of keeping an animal vegetarian or vegan just because you choose to be a vegetarian or vegan, because our guts and our system is quite different. So the reason why an animal, if you choose to give an option to an animal to choose between chicken and curd rice, we're sure what the animal is going to choose. So that's what the animal really wants to eat, not because it wants to have fun killing a cow or anything else or a horse. It's just because that's how they are programmed. So an animal should always be given in proportion to what it requires. They should be given a balanced diet of egg, milk and chicken and veggies, whatever is required. So, and that is the main reason why when you go to a shelter, because people are quite aware these animals already are depressed, they are away from their home. In that circumstance, if you're trying to give it curd rice, it may not eat. But if you give it something else like a wet packaged food, they will eat. So once they get used to the tastier food, they don't want to go back eating curd rice. That is the whole point, so yeah.
Is there any lifespans change from a tropical climate or from the cold countries?
Lifespan is very different from breed to breed, and also it differs from the way the animal is taken care. For example, a house dog which is given good love, support, food can even live up to 20 years. But a street dog may expire in 3 or 4 years. But on the average, you can see Indian households having life expectancy of around somewhere 10 to 13 years. But animals don't have a concept of quantity, it's about quality of life. So that's how you see it. That's because most of these animals, if they are on the street, they can have accidents, they may not get enough food, they don't have good health in general. So no matter what it is, it will die. But a house dog, of course, we give so much of love, affection, care, veterinary medicine. So even if it is in the end stage of a disease, every owner wants to prolong the life, give it at least one more week, at least one more day. So we can consider between 10 to 13, but I have seen dogs which have lived up to 20 years, 21 years, so it differs, sir. About the cold and tropical climates, the issue with the colder climate is most dogs are not really affected by the cold until it falls below their body temperature. So once that happens, then it is quite difficult. So a simple thing to remember is if you are feeling cold, for sure your dog is feeling cold. And if you're in the same place, you're feeling cold and you want to keep yourself warm, make sure your dog is also feeling cold, because it is the same almost. So that is the thing. And certain diseases like arthritis, bone issues, they will aggravate in colder climates because animals can't stretch properly, and so basically the life expectancy in a colder area is quite less compared to a tropical climate.
Dr. Ginah, I think the earlier question you made an answer referring to the temperature of the dog. The average temperature for the human beings is somewhere around 98.6, and what about in case of dog?
So in case of dogs, it can range from 101.1 to around 102.8. That's the maximum range. So if you find it is anywhere higher or lower than that, it means your dog is either having hyperthermia or hypothermia. But in the case of cats, the range is quite extensive, from 100.1 to 100.2.9. You can actually range. So that's the temperature range. And this temperature can vary from dog to cat, even from animal to animal, and where they reside.
In case of human being, you do it with a thermometer. And how do you measure this temperature in case of animals?
So we use the exact same thermometer for dogs and cats, but we take a rectal temperature. So you just insert the thermometer, the bulb into the rectum, and you can hold it for a minute, and then you can read the temperature. That's how it's done.
What is your general suggestion to all the pet owners or masters?
So I only want to say one thing to those people who want to adopt pets, buy pets, or rear them at home. So you should be well aware what you're doing, because getting a dog or a cat is not a one-day thing. It is not like getting a mobile phone which you can change in 6 months or 1 year. So once you bring a puppy home at 45 days, you should be prepared to give it a commitment of at least the next 12 to 13 years of your life. And you should always remember that these animals look cute when they are young, but they will grow up to a stage where they are not so cute as they were when they are younger. Also, never buy a pet just because your child wants to have some pastime, or because your neighbor got the same breed, or because of for a status symbol. You just do it if you really want companionship, because people fail to understand that these animals have emotions. They actually can feel. So after 2 years of you having the dog and your child has grown up, gone to from preschool to higher school, and now they don't have time and you don't have time, you cannot drop it in the street or in a shelter. We have a shelter over here having only pedigree dogs. You name a breed and we have it. We have all the breeds, like all the fancy breeds, from Chow Chow, Rajapaliyam, hounds, German shepherds. They're all adult dogs which have been in the houses of people, and once they have had their fun with the animal, and now the animal is not anymore attractive, has fallen sick, or because they don't have the time, they just dump it outside our shelter or come here and tie it and just walk away. So and these people tend to think that, okay, it's in a shelter now, it will be taken care of. That's not how it works. It's the same thing I told you earlier. You drop an animal and you go off. You don't know what is happening with it. We see them every day. They don't eat. They don't even play. They just sit in that kennel and they'll be dead in 3 or 4 days. It's not because we don't provide food, shelter or company. It's just because they miss their owners. They don't want anything else. Because for 10 years, if an animal has been in your house, it only knows you. It does not know me. No matter what comfort I provide, the animal is going to die. So this is one thing I will want to say. If you are not ready for a long-term commitment, you might as well buy a goldfish which has a short lifespan and which does not require a company. And that doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't hurt you or the fish, and it can be easily given to somebody else and it's going to be fine. But getting a dog, a cat, fancy cows, young ponies for your pleasure, for your child's game, is not something. Also, for those people, if they are not financially well off, then I just choose, don't buy an animal, because in today's lifestyle, maintaining a pet is quite expensive. Like how you asked me how much they can cost per month, you have to have a particular budget set for the animal, the food, the grooming part, the vaccines, the medication. So if you think that you really can't afford it in the long run, it is better to avoid the commitment, because once you have it and once the animal is halfway grown, you can't give it to somebody. And from my experience, I can tell you, nobody wants a grown-up dog. So in our shelter, you can see we have over 400 puppies. Nobody even wants puppies. How are they going to take an adult dog? An adult dog grown in your house and having a particular kind of behavior will not be welcome in some other house. So it is better, do not make those animals suffer. So for once you have taken the commitment, make sure you go through it, and do not do it, and don't encourage people. Okay, you're depressed, buy a dog. Okay, you don't have friends, buy a dog. You have a child, buy. It's a wrong concept. You can't buy a dog for your stuff. Only buy a dog if you really want it, or adopt a dog if you really want it. If you like spending time with animals, there are so many shelters. You go to the shelter, sit with them, spend some time with them. At least there is no commitment. Finish it off and you move home. That's my only request and my wish to the people, that don't buy it if you can't commit it.
If you have pet animals at home, does it anyway contribute to the immunity for the family members, especially for the children? How far it is true?
So it's actually a proven fact that dogs especially can actually help in boosting the immunity of your children. There are literature which says that if your child pets the animal for maybe 18 or 19 minutes in a day, it can actually boost. How this works is that dogs basically act like probiotics. They actually help in the growth of certain good bacterial colonies in your child's body. So these colonies, they fight against bacteria and certain other kind of diseases. So your child becomes more immune and will not get these certain small diseases like the allergies, asthmas, or even common cold. So apart from the fact that the dogs provide you with such kind of health benefits, there's also a lot in the child's development. A lot of children become more independent when they have an animal at home. They already have somebody to take care of. They become more responsible. They learn a lot, because when you have a dog at home, they Google up stuff. Okay, my dog is not well, what do I do? So instead of, that's a good distraction and also a good way to bring up a child, and also inculcates a very good habit from a very young age, that how to be kind to animals, how to take care of them. So it is true that dogs actually help in boosting the immunity of the animals. Also for other lonely people, people in depression, a lot of people choose to have animals because of the same reason, because animals are such agreeable friends. They don't argue with you. They like you the way you are, whether you're depressed, whether you're annoyed, whether you're angry. So they help people overcome their loneliness, and they are a very good source of companionship. So apart from all the health benefits, they're also good for a lot of other reasons.
Having pet animals at home, does it prevent BP or regulate BP? Has it got any scientific truth in this?
The question about bring down the BP, the thing is, when you pet a dog, your stress hormones come down, your anxiety comes down. So those hormones in your blood actually come down, and this actually can help regulate the blood pressure. So if you come into a home and you are really frustrated, annoyed and angry, and you see your dog wagging your tail at you and coming running to, your first instinct is to forget what happened and just pet the dog. So there is an immediate mood shift. So when this happens over and about every day, it actually helps to regulate your blood pressure, your hormones, the way you feel good about yourself. So it is actually a proven fact.
Thank you, Dr. Ginah. It was a wonderful presentation, how to take care of the pet animals, especially dog, from day one till they get into the ripe age. So I think the viewers of G Chris TV would have benefited from a presentation. Thank you.